Okay, let's work on a quilt. Okay, so welcome to my vaguely organised craft room. It's getting slightly more organised by the day, so we're winning at that. Okay, so I have a long-standing work in progress from at least 2015, probably earlier, which is my first ever sort of relatively large-sized quilt. I've done that kind of size of one, which is currently sat underneath the overlocker which you are sitting on, so I won't show you that. But I'm working on one that I think will be sort of a lap blanket kind of sized, suitable to sit on the back of an armchair and get hauled out as needed, kind of like a blanket would. So yeah, so I've pieced together the top, done some piecing on the back, and need to make a little bit more progress on it before I can work out how much wadding I need to buy. So let's go and have a look at what I've got so far. Okay, so this is my quilt project. I suspect this might be my oldest long-term WIP. I started this bit, the quilt top, which is log cabin blocks, before I ran the marathon, and that was 2015, so it's at least 10 years old. On this side we have my back. I decided to use the leftover fabrics from the front to piece together a back, minimising waste and expenditure and so on. However, I have bought some new fabrics for it because I need to do some borders and binding and stuff. So that's today's task. We're going to be cutting strips to do borders for both. Probably going to do a little bit wider than the log cabin strips for the front, and a little bit wider again for the back, because as I understand it, when you do your quilt sandwich, you want the back to be larger than the front because of how it squishes up when you quilt it. I don't know why I'm doing this gesture for squishing up for quilting, but I think you get what I mean. So I have 3 fabrics to choose from. So 2 borders, 1 binding. And we're going to cut those into the relevant strips. So I need to make some choices as to which ones I want to use. Okay, so there will be random bits of cat hair on everything because, yeah, you know, life. Let's take a look at these alongside everything. Okay. My immediate thoughts are, given that the one at the top, this like black spotty one, is spotty, and that some of the prints are fairly busy. It's a mixture of batik cottons and I think it must have been a fat quarter set that I got that was all Edgar Allan Poe themed, hence the gothic spookiness. But seeing as some of the prints are quite busy, I'm thinking that spotty one, probably going to be the binding. I think that makes the most sense. So then I just need to choose between these 2 here as to which one's going to be the border for the top and which one for the back. I also need to give these pieced bits of fabric a press, because they've been folded up for quite some while, so they've gained a few extra creases. Okay, I think because we've got a fair amount of the dark brown on the log cabin top, that if I used the bottom on the brown, that's going to blend more rather than framing it. So I think the middle on the cream, I think that's going to be my border for the top and the dark brown for the bottom. And there's a fair amount of the creams and neutrals in the top as well. but I think that's going to work better. And with the heavier colours with the blacks in the pieced backing, I think the cream next to that is a bit much. So I think the dark brown is going to work better for the back. Okay, so there we go. Border for the back, border for the front, binding. And if you can hear random noise in the background, because it's bin day. Okay, so I'm going to go and take these upstairs, press some fabrics, cut some strips, and get these borders sewn on. Hopefully, we'll end up with reasonably square front and back, with the back being slightly larger than the front so that I can work out how much wadding I need to buy. That's the next purchase for this quilt. Okay, so I'll see you in the craft room. Right then, so we're ready for the next step. I need to get the sewing machine out. Obviously that normally sits kind of here. Now under here, this is the little quilt that I made before. It's not the best place to store it. I need to find it a proper home. So yeah, I'm not moving the overlocker right now because I don't need it. But what I have done is I have cut out the border pieces, the border strips for the top and the back of the quilt. I've not pressed or cut the binding fabric, and that can wait until I've got the wadding in and the quilting bit done, and I've worked out how wide I want my binding to be. So no point cutting it out until then. So for the front, by the way, if you can hear noise in the background, the washing machine's on and it's quite loud. So for the front, I've done the paler fabric, the beige. I've cut out 5 3-inch strips that are the full width of the fabric. And the reason I've done 5 is because the width of the top seems to be about the width of the fabric at the moment before I add the strips on. That means when I do the sides, because I'm going to do top and bottom first and then the sides, I'm going to need to piece to get the right length, which is fine. So that's the ones for the top, 3-inch wide strips there. So that with, you lose about ½ inch because 1/4 inch seams. So it's going to leave me with 2 3/4 before the binding goes on, 2 1/2 once everything is in place. And these strips have come out once sewn in place to about 1 1/2 inches. So there's the difference in width. The border's going to be wider than the strips in the main fabric, which I think is going to look good. The strips for the back I've done in the sort of chocolatey brown fabric. These are both Moda, I want to say graffiti, I really can't remember. I can't even remember where I bought the fabric from. It says it on the words have escaped me. Selvage. It does say on Selvage what they are, I believe. But it's not stuck in my head. So for the back, I've done the brown ones and I've done 4-inch strips there. It's probably not going to end up being that much wider once everything is said and done. But I wanted to make sure that the back is bigger than the front, so that when you do your sandwich, you've got the back and the wadding larger than the front. Put the front on top, you do all your quilting stuff to get them together, and there's a bit of shrinkage and what have you. So you generally, from what I can tell from reading around the internet, you generally want your back to be wider than your front. So that's that. So today's task is to get the strips sewn onto the front and back. So we'll do the top and the bottom and then the 2 sides on both of them. That's all we're aiming to achieve today. It's not a big task. It shouldn't be. I'll be pressing seams towards the borders, I believe. From a bulk perspective, I think that's going to work the best. So let me get my sewing machine out and we'll get cracking. Okay, let me show you how close to being the right length this border piece is. I've not cut the selvages off yet, and I folded the border piece in half, lined it up at the middle point of the top. With the selvages on, it's just long enough, but the printed selvage is wider than the seam allowance, so it needs to come off. So yeah, super, super close. So yes, I am going to piece together border pieces, but yeah, that's frustrating. What I think I might do is actually cut out contrast squares for the corners and have the border from the back in the corners and then the rest. So I'll then have a contrast, and then I can do the same. I'd have to cut out more fabric to do the same for the back. Right, I'm going to put the side borders on the back first and see how much back we've got. Because the back is obviously going to be more shorter, not that that's a proper way of speaking, but you know what I mean. Having that piece is going to be a little bit less of an issue, plus it's the back, so yeah. This is super helpful. So I've done one of the strips with 3-inch squares on the end. They're not perfectly sewn, but it's fine. So I need to do another one the same, and then we get the front finished. We're going to have a look and see how they look with their borders on. Okay, so that's my quilt top and quilt back done. One of the benefits of quilting, of doing the back of the quilts in a sort of pieced style, it's not just that it saves you money because you don't need to go and buy a backing fabric if you've got the fabrics in stock or an excess of the fabrics you're using for the top. And so if you have the materials to hand, your quilt's going to be reversible. Because whilst I love the log cabin block, and I like the way this turned out and the geometry of it, there's something quite charming about this version as well. So that's going to make my quilt a bit more flexible because I can put it on either way. And this one being a fairly square quilt, the top can go in any orientation, and the back obviously is a bit more of a directional aspect to it. So yeah, so I've enjoyed doing that so far. Next step is to measure it and get some wadding so I can do the quilting and then bind it. So next time I do a quilting video, that'll be what we're doing, being the quilt sandwich, quilting and binding, to get this wonderful Edgar Allan Poe themed lap quilt done. And hopefully that won't be too long away. We'll see how we get on. So yeah, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Until then, there's this one here that may be of interest to you, and I will see you soon. But until then, happy crafting and bye-bye for now.